Welcome to another RES Wave XLM Price Action update. Yes, it's been a while since I've posted about XLM, but something very interesting happened this morning when I was having a meeting with one of my members. I did basically a training session, and during that training session, it became clear what is going on with XLM. It has become more than obvious what is going on with XLM, and it's not good. In fact, there's not much good to say today, only to analyze and to predict based on this new knowledge that I have come across. Well, it's actually an idea meritocracy. I don't know if you've ever heard of that term before, used by Ray Dalio, a famous hedge fund manager with over 100 billion in management, where basically you share ideas together or you basically try to find faults with your own ideas. Now, two heads are better than one, absolutely. And that's exactly what I discovered this morning when this happened. Because as I went from a top-down approach from a long-term perspective view of XLM on the weekly, it became glaringly obvious that my analysis had been suffering due to my own incorrect wave identification. So much so that I actually got uh, my member, who's one of my members, basically his name's Joshua. So thanks for that session, Joshua. We helped each other basically, and I got him to identify the waves rather than myself. Right. So I just asked the question, "What wave is this? What wave is that?" And we drilled all the way down to where we are right now. Okay. And where we are right now, believe it or not, is in a wave two of a larger 5 wave move that is still in progress. This adds credence to the stock market having topped already at the end of last year. This also means that we won't see another all-time high, not until we see a completed, very large 5 wave move to the downside. That is going to be the E wave that I have been expecting for such a long time. It's going to happen in the stock market. It's going to happen in cryptos. Okay, we have already seen wave one down in cryptos and the stock market. Okay, just think about that for a second. All right, so what does that mean? What does that leave? What's left? Well, we haven't even seen the worst of it yet. And the problem is that wave one has been extremely choppy right up until this point. Okay. So, how are we going to look at this in terms of XLM price pattern since May last year? Well, that's okay because I'm going to share that with you right now. So, this is what we came up with. This is the count right here. Okay. We have wave one, we have wave two, we have wave three, four, and five. Okay. Yes, we did bottom in June. Four, sorry, it was actually May. May we bottomed for the end of the first wave. Okay? That's when, according to this count, it ended. Okay, so what is this move? This is a type 1 week 5 wave move, right? We have identified every corrective portion and every emotive wave, basically the zigzags in between, that basically make up this price action. Right, so there's no point looking for wave three weakness in the RSI because in this type of pattern, it doesn't really apply. So the deal is here right now, we are in a B wave down. So we will see a break below the previous um, low, right? And that will be to complete wave B. Okay. So this move that we're currently seeing now is basically just a C wave of what started back here at the end of May, right? It's an ABC. Uh, it's a zigzag, right? For wave B. Okay. Okay. So now you're probably thinking, well, how does this sort of move happen? Okay, that's fine. I can give you an example of this on the SNX chart, right? An example of this when it happened back before this drop started. Okay, I did say, and I did say this before this happened, right? That this was a wave one, zigzag, 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 right? And then I said, okay, well, if that's 5 waves down, then we're going to start to move higher. And because of the fractal nature of these patterns, the, the zigzag, the wave 5 that I thought would happen ended up being a zigzag wave A. And then we got the A, B, C, D, E pattern right there before we broke down. Okay. So that there is an example of how this corrective pattern can basically drop with a very shallow retracement, drop below the previous low, and then just correct ever so slightly and completely collapse, right? So this is an example of what we're seeing on XLM at the larger degree. This is a very small example of that type of price action happening, right? So if I draw a fib retracement from the end of wave one, it didn't even go back up to not even 0.382, right? And that's because of the weakness that's in the market, right? Sometimes you do get a pullback that goes higher, 50%, 0.618, even up to 0.786. But these Fibonacci retracements, they're no indication of anything of what's going to happen in the future, right? The best thing to do is to actually trade based on the end of the corrective pattern, and that's how you would short this. Okay, now on the smaller degree, obviously much harder, but on the larger degree, now we're starting to get more of a feel for what's going on with XLM. And I believe that it's basically going to be affecting every single market, not just XLM, right? And this pattern here, which we thought was something else, right? Where have I gone? I've gone to a different chart. 1 second. Right. So the pattern which I thought was a potential, start of a 5 wave move here, right? It turns out that it would simply put a 5 wave move. It's actually a rare pattern. It's a type 2 weak 5 wave move, right? And I believe that the first wave ended here, and then we had an A, B, C, D, E, right? Very strange, but it's still the rest of the pattern did happen the way it was supposed to. So we had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It didn't break above the previous high, which is obviously a rule for a B wave. Pullback was pretty sufficient at around between 0.618 and 0.786. So right now, where we're targeting, new target is 0.09, 05, whatever, 0.0905, right? And at that point in time, we would need to be paying very close attention to what happens next. Because when we get to that point in time, there is a good chance that we may not see a very large bounce at all. Okay, we may not see that, right? We may see something of a bounce. It might be correlated with maybe some interesting news event that might occur. Um, but when you think about where we are in XLM and how close we are getting to the midterm elections at the end of the year, November, uh, one starts to sort of get the picture that potentially the biggest crash down that we haven't seen yet might actually begin around that time, right? Right when everybody thinks that potentially we have a chance of perhaps going back up, the E wave will be the one that potentially ends those hopes as it then reverses course and starts to head back south in such a dramatic way that at this point in time, it's not really known how that's going to play out. Okay, but given the type of environment that we're in right now and interest rates on the rise, which I don't see any end to their hikes, there's a potential for a massive reset, just like we've been talking about for a while. But no all-time high before we get there. In fact, we may be getting closer to that than we think. There will be a time to short this in a very with a very good risk reward ratio. So you may want to stay connected to this channel, follow, subscribe, like, support, so then I can bring you regular updates as we track this move towards the end of wave 2, right, which will basically uh, end up being a very interesting point in time in hindsight, okay? Especially if you get into this move before it happens. Okay, it will be something to remember. So if I am to label this correctly, we are in wave 2. There is no knowing when wave 2 will terminate. It could terminate in November, but we still have to produce this zigzag here. Ellioticians might get sucked into this by thinking that that's a complete correction right there, and then that we're seeing like a 1, 2, and a 3 pattern. That's not the case, and I'll prove it to you when it happens. Okay, there is no other way to explain this corrective price action than by using my own methodology. So hopefully you found this video interesting and informative. Thank you for watching.